Okay, so here we go. So we're going to talk about f.64's new infrared processing system that they have just come out on the market with. And they call it the CLiR. And what it is it's a set of two functions. First and foremost, the most important thing that they provide to us all is the CLiR panel of infrared adjustments that you install into Photoshop. Okay. And it's been way too early for me to go through them all. But what I've seen so far of those panel actions, they look rather intriguing. And then the second half of it is they are pointedly claiming to be able to do infrared processing during the raw conversion. And what they're doing is they are having you run through a DNG conversion of your raw file. And for those of you who shoot infrared but haven't used the DNG profiler, it's a free utility that you can download from the Adobe website. It's called the DNG converter. And what it does is it will take a raw file from any camera out there and convert it to a DNG file, which is, of course, Adobe's answer to the several hundred versions of raw files that are out there, and DNG stands for digital negative. But in order for it to work, you have to create a profile for the camera conversion and lens, okay, which is no big deal. That is something that's fairly easy to do. And what that does is that applies it to the raw file. And it does kind of a pseudo channel swap in the raw converter, which is kind of interesting, and it lets you do some basic editing inside of Adobe's ACR program and have the image retain the correct white balance. I don't know, have any of you all had problems with Adobe's ACR program not handling a in-camera infrared white balance and turning the entire image bright red?
Yeah, I get that every time if I use ACR, but I don't, yeah. Okay. So I don't know if I mean, if I go to DPP, the Canon, I don't get that issue.
Yeah, and you won't get that also in
Capture One.
Capture One. And what's happening is some of the white balancing that is required for an infrared image or an infrared camera conversion, it just puts it the white balance, to get a good white balance, it puts it too far out of the boundaries of what Adobe considers proper, and then it'll default it back to 5,000 degrees, and that turns it into that bright red super image, okay? And when that happens in Adobe, you can't even do a manual white balance using the white balance eyedropper in the raw converter, because as soon as you do it, it's going to jump it right back again at 5,000 degrees. So that's what the DNG profiling is for. It does all of this for you when it converts your camera raw file to a DNG file. Effectively, it applies the proper white balance, but in a artificial manner. It's not based so much upon the image as it is you going into the DNG converter and telling it to create a profile, and then you're going to move color sliders back and forth watching the image, okay, until you get something that looks promising to you, and then you save the DNG file, and then it's now in there. And then that will allow you to do some basic raw editing in Adobe's ACR. Now, you could continue to use the channel swap in Photoshop, or you could use the channel swap portion of the CLiR as well. So that is a choice that you can make too. But let's just touch on one more item in this raw to DNG conversion. If you are having problems with the white balance in your camera and you were normally forced to do the DNG conversion to get around that because you didn't use Capture One, all right, provided that your camera can indeed white balance, and some will not in infrared, some just won't. And then you're going to be forced to do the DNG conversion no matter what. But inside of Capture One, you can do the same editing in a properly white balanced image, plus have the advanced total mapping tools as well to correct other issues, and then drop those into, let's see here, we're getting a failure. And then dropping it directly from Capture One into Photoshop and use their CLiR infrared panel there. Now, having said that, the panel is easy to see, easy to read, easy to understand. They use rather garish colors in the buttons and the sections, but you know, that has a place. A lot of panel developers do that so that you can easily differentiate sections of control in the panel. Okay, that's no big deal. So depending on whether or not you use Capture One, or whether you're going to use Adobe RAW converter, or you're going to use the DNG conversion with profiling, you're going to get the same result inside of their CLiR panel that they provide. Okay. Do you have any questions on that so far? Okay. If you watch their introductory video very closely on their website, they're going to show you doing the raw conversion in Photoshop using the ACR, and they're going to show you doing some basic infrared edits there. But what you need to realize is they're not showing you that you have to do the DNG conversion first before you get to that point. Okay, I need you guys to be clear on that. And that's okay, because the DNG conversion has a valid place in infrared post-processing, especially for common cameras, cameras that won't white balance, cameras that Adobe won't accept their white balance once you've achieved it in camera. There are always going to be some of those out there, okay? So that's just step one, whether you choose to do it yourself in Capture One or Lightroom or Photoshop, or you have to go through the DNG conversion and profiling. And some people, unfortunately, have to do that, okay? So we'll jump right in. We'll go and we'll take a look at their, okay, if you would go down and click on my, and highlight on my screen at the bottom of the video, so that when we make noise, it won't jump away from the desktop share. And everybody can see my desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. These are the videos that I want you guys to go in and watch. Watch this one here up on top, which is really, they're going to show that initial raw editing there, but they are not going to show how you do the DNG profiling, but they're going to show you that in other videos inside it. That's why they tell you, until you've watched all 4 intro tutorials, don't bother running the software product, so that you know the steps to get to that point, okay? So I've opened up a couple of images here in Photoshop that I will share with you. This one is a wildly semi-white balanced camera image that I took. Here's one with a more proper white balance in camera. All right, so you see the difference between those? Now, if I were to drop these into the Adobe RAW converter, it's going to operate on these just fine, okay? Because this is not one of the problem cameras, and the camera did indeed white balance, so it works very, very well. The installation of the CLiR panel, and this is it right here, is straightforward. They tell you not to do an automatic installation. They want you to move it into the proper directory by hand, but they give you very explicit instructions, and it's easy to do, and it only takes a few seconds to do the install, okay? Now, they've got some basic panel functionality. Auto levels, auto contrast, auto colors, doing local contrast with plus and minus adjustments, adjusting details. They do have an infrared white balance, okay, that works very well. We have a channel mixer that does the channel swap. Okay. So let's do that real quick. We'll run that on this image. Okay. And it brings up another set of windows, and we can go through and we can do these adjustments ourselves live, okay? And this is no different than doing these in Photoshop. So inside of Photoshop, inside of using the channel menus, or running the chromography action, which does it quite intelligently. This just makes it easier so that people don't have to go and search through the menus. It puts them all in one location. Okay, and it does a good job. Okay, so let's jump out of this, and let's go take that down. I'm going to bring up another image. There's the one we want. Okay, so we're going to bring up the actions again. We're going to go down into their channel mixer. Now, they suggest that you do some of the basic editing steps. You know, you can do auto levels in the RAW and see what that does. It did a pretty decent job, didn't it? Auto contrast, auto colors. They give you lots and lots of functionality here. You can do local contrast adjustments. And then you can go in and you can play with the channel mixers. You can play with blend modes. They have presets where it will go in. It'll do some basic channel swaps for you. See how it did a pretty good job there, didn't it? It brought the blue sky out. Okay. Let's look at some of the others. It's giving you different colorization mode, different blues to the sky. These are fairly well thought out. And the thing about these is this is going to help people that are new to infrared really jump into this post-processing in a very fast manner, okay? Now it's going to create all kinds of layers, and you can play with the blend modes. Okay, and you see it gives us some pretty nice control over the initial artistic output. Okay. You can also have it go directly into the monochrome, should you like. But the thing about this is, I would suggest that you do your color editing first, because you're going to get better monochrome results after the fact. Okay. So I'm going to just say okay to what they did for the channel swap. It did a decent job, don't you think?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still have a little bit of too much green in it.
The blue needs the hue needs to be adjusted in the sky.
Yeah. Now I'm going to show you the difference in that. Let's drop some of these. Yeah. So that's not bad. We'll leave their color cast and auto contrast stuff in place, okay? And then we will just jump immediately into the alternative method, which is what we've been teaching all along, running the infrared adjustments, provided they run on top of this, and they did. And then I will go through my cyans, and we will fix that greenish cast to the sky. We will lighten the sky a little. Maybe bump the saturation up a bit and do some final adjustments in that blue sky. And say okay. And we get to a little bit better blue with a less amount of green.
And sometimes I'll go to the blue channel before I say okay.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll go to the red channel as well, and the yellow channel, and play with the trees.
Right.
Well, and then from here on out, as we've done, dozens and dozens of times, I would go in and I would run Nick filters to do my artistic colorization of the trees and the subject matter of the image, right? But let's flatten that image real quick, and let's go back into their panel so we can see some of the other things. Okay, so we've done we've played with the basic infrared post-processing. Okay, but there are some other things we can they've got some crazy things, color twister. And some of these are quite involved, and they take a while to run. But they do some really good things. I mean, we can change colors from yellows to reds, yellows to red 2, yellow to white. So there's a lot of functionality built into this. You can play with tones and color, special effects, details, black and white. You can play with layers, lighten and darken. There's a lot to do here. Now, one of the things that I felt was very interesting was they have their white balance. But now, unfortunately, we have to wait for this to complete. There we go. Okay. So, again, it's going to drop us into an area where we can change the amount of reds, increase the saturation levels of the red areas. We can change the luminosity of it, and it allows you to artistically go in and edit very specific areas. And you can edit areas based on luminosity, which is really nice too. Okay. So they give us some nice artistic tools. So let me read. All right, there, we're done. We'll jump out of this window. Come back up in here. And one of the things I did want to talk to you about was their white balance. Let's see if we can find that again. White balance, here we go. And this gave us some really good normal white balance, infrared white balance. See, This gave us some really good tools before we do the channel swap to go in and try and correct the white balance. But as you can see, even here, it's done a fairly decent job. Now, we've got some blown out highlights. We'll click on highlight recovery, see how it brought those highlights back into range again. It really does a decent job. The white balance works, and it works very well once we have that raw image into Photoshop, but it isn't going to help you do the white balance prior to doing the raw conversion. Okay, this is just for artistic manipulation of the white balance after it's into the into Photoshop as a converted image. Do you guys have any questions about that? I really did find some of these color twisters in Magic Color Lab and Color Balance Pro. I found these to be very, very interesting and full of functionality. But in all honesty, I haven't played with them enough to be able to give a definitive opinion on them. But what I've played with so far looks very, very promising. I like the panel. I think the panel is full of functionality. It's got cool effects. It's got black and white converter once you're done. It's got things like hyperglow. You know what hyperglow is enhancing the wood effect of the leaf. See how it did that?
Well, can you also do Orton?
Pardon?
If you run a Orton effect action, will you get a similar type of glow?
Yes. Yes. But I found that the hyperglow really worked very well. This is a very good emulation of what happens when you're doing 720, 800 and up, where the leaves take on a glowing effect, slightly out of focus. Okay, and then it allows you to bring the highlights and the shadows back into play. So let's accept this. And all right, so there it is. So you notice we have the glow in the foliage, which is where it's supposed to be. But yet the other areas of the image are still perfectly sharp. Okay. So there's super functionality here. I mean, there really, really is. It's just something that we have to play with to better learn. And the thing about this is you were talking about the cost of the package. There's so much functionality in this panel, okay, that the training videos are a very, very good feature. Have I watched them yet? Not yet. Okay, this is just a first jump in, initial impressions into this. And there's so much here that it's going to take a while to learn. Okay. And there's levels upon levels upon levels of editing functionality built into this. But it's going to take a while to learn. Okay. So it's kind of cool. I am very surprised at the functionality that I have currently seen in this. Let's look at some of the other menus real quick. Tones and color special effects. Again, these are moving colors into different color spaces, recovering colors, recover colors within the shadows, within the highlights, this sort of thing, okay? color effects, grading, cool to warm, HDR style effects, which that could be interesting. But again, it's just, this is so much processing going on. This can take quite a long time. You can do a white balance layer on top of the image. I think that this is very, very interesting as well, and we're going to have to learn how to do that. But each one of these brings up another whole set of processing, noise reduction, sharpening, okay, high pass, low pass, lab, USM. There's a lot of intelligence built into this that you don't normally see. The black and white effects, you know, if we're going to do black and white, we have a nice blue sky, right? So let's pop a red filter in the sky. Okay, let's look at a green filter. The green filter should bring out a little bit of differences between the trees. The blue filter. And it's nice that it gives you one area to play with these presets in. And they give you an infrared simulator. Okay. So, you know, they work pretty good. They have an advanced black and white, but again, these take a long time to initially run. They're doing so much. I would be willing to run this for you now, but I think that since it's so late, that we'll just keep this as a basic introductory session for this time, okay? It's got a resize and save interface. You can save for the web, which is going to strip off. It should strip off. I don't know if it does. It should strip off all the EXIF data and change the color space. Okay. It has a JPG, PSD, PNG, TIFF8, TIFF16. You can select different color spaces to save in. This is very nicely done. This makes it easy to do your editing within the panel and save the image. Okay. They're not lying when they say that there's a lot of functionality built into it here. There truly is. They have luminosity masking. Okay. I mean, I love some of these things. I actually like that a little bit better than not. Over the normal blend mode and the luminosity blend mode. See, we can get some really cool stuff here. We can work only in the dark areas, only in mid-tones. Okay, so let's play with the dark areas and then go up and change the mixing modes. See, I like what that did to the sky and the clouds. Overlay, darken, luminosity, multiply. These are things that normal run-of-the-mill people that don't dive into the channel and the mixing modes of the channels ever really play with. So the fact that they've brought these controls out here in a style that gives immediate feedback is going to make working in infrared a lot easier, okay? So it's kind of cool. What do you all think of this so far?
I like it. I think it's a
Okay,
really
Richard.
cool tool.
Richard, what do you?
I think it's very nice. I just think I'll wait.
Mm-hmm. Liz, was this what you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be nice to, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it might spark some creativity with it too, the different options and stuff.
And I think that was the intent of it.
So,
okay.
because I feel like I process the same way, get stuck, you know, end up using the same colors. It'd be fun to like just explore and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
No, Liz, I could see you doing wonderful stuff. Right now, I'm kind of fixated on learning Capture One.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, my mind's in a total different world. So don't let my bias affect you, because you're the one who found this, and you're the one who's been doing more color infrared at the wavelengths that this will really make things pop than anyone else around here.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's like, I mean, obviously it's perfect timing with spring starting and stuff. So it's like, I might end up buying it now before it's $100 more.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, depending upon the path you take for white balance and raw conversion, that won't affect the use of this panel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All it's going to do is it's going to affect how you do that raw conversion and the channel swap. You can do the channel swap using the recipes that they give you, the controls. Go in and use all of the controls. Let's look at let's jump into a different image here real quick. All right. This is at a fort down near Jekyll Island down in Georgia. Okay. And I'm just going to go through there. Remember, we broke this out. Their channel swaps. And we're just going to take their suggested recipes. Remember that we can go in and we can run the channel swap based upon see, this is one of those long things that it's doing now.
What kind of processor are you running?
This is an i7 with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Okay. And the scratch pad is all ultra high speed SSD. So this is a fairly fast computer. But we're also slowing down because we're streaming live video.
Right, but you can tell us what it's like when you're not streaming.
Yes. And it does slow down too when I am not streaming. Okay, so let's turn that layer off. Let's go back to the original. Now let's go in to the creative channel mix that they provided, and we'll do this all by hand. Okay, and these are all of those same recipes that they offered us in the main menu here, okay? All right, but we can go in and we could take our red, okay, and we could go from 100 down to 0. Okay, we could take our blue and we could go up to 100. Okay, and now let's take the red. Let's play with these a little. Okay. So as you can see, it allows us to really play with these. So if we want to take the red down to 0, okay, and take the blue up in the red channel, and then go down here to the blue channel and take it down to 0, and take the red up. Okay, it's going to do the same basic thing that we did up here in channel swap number 1. Okay, so I mean, this is the same exact thing that we're doing in the chromatography. without dropping us into the window to correct the blue. Okay, but it just puts everything at your fingertips, so it makes it much easier to do. Okay, and you can be far more creative here. This is the one thing that I have learned so far. All right, so cancel this. And we're going to jump right back to this image.
Do you have a 590 image to try it with? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I do not.
Okay.
The only current image I have, and let's turn these off. Actually, we'll just delete these. The only image I have is at 720.
Okay.
All right. So, but if you want to play with this again on another night and send me a 590, we can do that. All right. Now, it's not going to be too much longer. I'm going to have another infrared conversion back here from CLiR. I sent an A7R2 off to have it converted to full spectrum. And they're sending back the their new aerochrome filter.
Is that the one you're waiting for, Liz?
Yeah, I got mine like a little over a week ago.
Cool. How is it?
It's pretty cool, but things aren't so green around here right now. So I've gotten to play with some.
Right, that makes sense. And remember this, that the aerochrome filter is a tri-band pass filter.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice the color of the filter?
Yeah, it's blue.
Does it remind you of any other infrared filter? It reminds me of
I don't know if everyone has a coat on it.
O47B, which is another tri-band filter. That's a little bit of ultraviolet, a little visible, and a little bit of infrared. And all that CLiR has done is they're changing values of those three sections. And it's been scientifically designed to emulate the Kodak aerochrome film. Mm-hmm. There's been some negative posts on the infrared group on Facebook by CLiR, or not CLiR, by LifePixel, where they're saying that it's stupid to have a special filter for it because we can just do that in 590. But that actually, that is not true. That is an untrue statement. 590 has no ultraviolet component into the image, whereas this does, and it's that ultraviolet mixed with a little bit of visible and a little bit of infrared. That's where we're bringing out those cool and wild colors in the aerochrome that emulates aerochrome color film.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do a blog post about that here shortly, and I'm going to debunk LifePixel's.
Yeah, they seemed a little jealous.
Yeah, it is, and and I understand, competition between the companies. I do. But if you're going to do stuff like that, you need to be accurate, don't you think?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I like LifePixel. I've had a lot of conversions done through them. But I just, right now, I happen to like CLiR better. I think they have a better product and provide more for the money. Mm-hmm. So that's my words and thoughts on the deal. So any questions on what I've learned so far with this? It's going to take me a while to go through it. And like I said, they come with 6 different videos: an introductory video, a video that takes you through the installation that's very nicely done, and it shows the differences between Macs and PCs, and it tells you step by step what to do. And it'll only take you a minute to do the installation. Okay.
Oh.
And then they have 4 training videos, and they say don't even attempt to play with the panel until you've watched the first 2, I believe. All right. And I've got all of those installed on my computer. Let me bring up that directory and make sure I'm telling you the truth here about the number of videos. Here it is. So we have start here directory. We've got 2 videos on an introductory and an installation video. And then we have their mastery modules. And these are 4 directories, and this is full of videos. Well, here's level 4, and it's got 3 videos in it and extras. Intro to black and white editing in infrared. Intro to IR post-processing workflow. And in this one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 training videos.
Wow.
So that's why the product costs so much, because they have all of these videos. Let's see one more. Let's look at number 1. Intro to IR. Intro to IR course, history and science behind infrared, camera conversions for infrared, types of cameras to convert, lens hotspot control. Like I said, I haven't watched any of these. Exposure for infrared, which conversions are right for you. There are a lot. They're covering the whole infrared gamut from end to end. So given that, I understand the cost of the entire package, because this is an entire infrared course.
It sounds very extensive.
Yeah. And will everybody agree with their raw workflow? I'm guessing not so much. New people to the infrared game, probably they will jump into this wholeheartedly. Folks that are more set and comfortable in their raw and channel swap, maybe not so. But the nice thing about it is you can do your raw conversion anywhere you choose to use it. And I am sure that buried in the channel swap functionality that's built in there, we can correct. Well, I know we can, because there were green sliders. We could take the green slider down in the blue channel. We would recover. We would change that aqua-colored sky back to a normal blue color. Yes. Okay. And it might just be quite handy having it all in one space, all in one window. But obviously, there's a lot I have to learn on this. But I thought you guys might like an initial impression of it so far. Any questions?
It looks very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for showing us.
So Liz, are you think you're going to jump into it while it's still on sale?
Yeah, I'm going to think about it tonight and probably get it tomorrow. Because otherwise, the next time it goes on sale, it'll probably be Black Friday.
Yeah.
And then it's not IR season.
Okay.
So I'll probably be kicking myself when I see the images you make. But I do that anyway when I look at your images, so it won't make any difference.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I was quite impressed with the functionality of the panel itself. Okay. I really, really was. And their channel swap features are very, very powerful. And I like the fact that they've got some built-in recipes. It would be nice if they could let you define your own recipe and save them.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would be capable inside of a panel. It might be easy to break the panel itself if they allowed you to save within it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But there might be some way for them to do it and add it as some sort of a sidecar, which I'm sure the panels have. I haven't gone in and actually looked at the directory where the software is located.
I thought that there was something on that introductory videos where they talked about saving something.
You know, and there may well be. I mean, I've only had a chance to play with it for an hour or two today, and I played with it last night for about an hour. I will go in. I'm going to give it a fair shot. I'm going to go in and I will watch their post-processing videos, and see that I learn all of the buttonology and all of the features of the panel itself, so that I can master it. Because this might be a very, very good tool for everybody. Especially for beginners in the infrared world. But I like the functionality of the panel. I could see me using those as well. Although, in all honesty, I will say that it does not take me 15 to 20 minutes to post-process an infrared image. I can go through it in 2 or 3 minutes. But, you know, that's decades of experience. So.
You think you may switch back to doing a 590?
Well, I sent the camera off to CLiR to be converted to full spectrum.
So you can just use filters.
Yeah, I'll just use filters. And I chose full spectrum so that I can still have that Sony as a backup camera, because you can buy a hot mirror filter to put on the end of the lens as well. All right. Look, you were using a Fuji body.
Yeah, I have 2 now.
Okay, so what are your infrared cameras now?
The XE1.
Okay.
For both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found that really good deal on KEH for the used one.
Okay. Yeah, the XT1 that made a really good infrared conversion. In fact, all of the Sony bodies are excellent infrared cameras. They just really, really are.
And mine's the XE2.
Okay. Yeah. I'll probably end up getting down the line at X Pro 2 and having that converted to a 720.
So, Liz, what are your conversions? Are they the same?
The full spectrum, so I could do that.
Oh, that's right.
And then 590.